welcome to Ungimmicked. We are here once again joined by the whole crew. In 5 different studios, we have Alex Moreau, Connor McDonald, Matthew O'Neill, Sanjeev Vinod.
Hello,
My name is
y'all.
Gonçalo Souza, and it is a pleasure to be here once again to talk about more magic, more interesting topics. And this one is, I'm very, very excited for it. It stemmed from a conversation that I had with Sanjeev that started as a little 5-minute thing and turned into an hour discussion, and we were like, yes, Ungimmicked needs to hear this. So Sanjeev, tell us, what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, first of all, this came from like at midnight. Gonzalo and I called, and then he was like, "I'm going to sleep," and then we both hung up, and then like 20 minutes later, we get on another call, and then we start talking about this, and this discussion is mainly centered around I would call it a subset of magic that we haven't addressed too much in this podcast. And specifically, it's not something I think about much either, because I personally am getting a lot more into the artistic, the theater side, and those are kind of the philosophies we espouse within our group as well. But for this episode, I want to talk about strolling magic, because it's something I definitely have a lot of questions on. And at the very least, this episode is for me to collect a bunch of different perspectives on it, because I want to especially hear about your general thoughts on strolling magic, the past, present, future, and also on the artistic side of it, / if there's potential for there to be one. So here's a broad structure for this discussion. In the first half, I want to talk about what strolling magic is and how it's presented now, and then how we want it to be presented. And then in the second half, I think I want to go a layer deeper and then talk about other things such as, is it artistic? Is there an artistic side to it? Is there potential for it? Strolling magic in the time of COVID, and what does the future of strolling magic look like? So let's start with, how do we all define strolling magic?
Well,
Alex?
before we just start the discussion, would you just mind telling the our people that are listening that might not know what strolling magic even means, and just quickly give them an idea of what it is?
Of course. So strolling magic, rather than being defined by the artist side as we define other types of magic, or by the props, this is mostly defined by context. So strolling magic is magic where the magician is walking around, and this is, I would say, probably one of the ways that magicians are hired most often, where you, either a corporate event or a party, you hire a magician, and then they walk around the party space, and then they approach groups, and they perform to those groups. They do a few tricks, maybe around a 10-minute set, and then they move on to another group. That is how we are discussing strolling magic for the sake of this discussion.
It's really interesting because it has its own unique challenges, because in a formal show, generally people are going to see you, especially if they paid tickets specifically to see you.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's flipped. They don't know you, and you're walking up to them. You have to do cold approaches like 25, 30, 40 times a night.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That makes the context different, so people might feel like you're interrupting them. So artistic stuff, when people might be like, oh, who is this guy? Is he trying to sell me something? It's a lot harder to introduce.
Yeah, strolling magic is a really weird situation, because you're doing magic for people who didn't ask for it. And I think, as we've already established in an earlier episode, Sanjeev said it. He said that he's just like desperate to not desperate, but he wants to show everyone his magic. And he's like, why wouldn't someone want to see a magic trick? He loves magic. He's like connecting with an old friend. So it is a really weird situation of like doing magic at a restaurant. Like, people go there to eat, and then all of a sudden there's a magician going in and totally disrupting the conversation. And of course, some people love magic and it works, but then sometimes people don't, and they just say no thank you. It's really weird.
Yeah, I think this discussion specifically stemmed from a pretty massive disagreement between Gonzalo and I, where, to me, I really, again, I will preface this by saying, to me, strolling magic is like a different hobby within magic. So it is distinct, which means to everyone their own. You can have your own opinion on it, your own preference for it. And I personally despise strolling magic, because as someone who takes a lot of both gratitude and appreciation for conversation in general, it seems horrendously just insensitive to interrupt anything, to say, hi, please let me do my thing because it is my job to do it, and please give me attention, and then let me go away. But one point that Gonzalo brought to my attention, which I think is really good right at the start of this discussion as an anchor, is there are more authentic ways to do it, where, for example, one is you walk around and you mingle just as a regular full holistic human being where you just walk around. What a concept, right? You walk around and you talk to people, you have conversations, and inevitably at some point in the conversation, whether it's 2 minutes in or 7 minutes in, they'll be like, so what do you do? What role do you have in this company? What position are you? What department do you work in? And that's when you say, oh yeah, I'm actually the magician for this event. That's why I was hired to be here. And at that point, people already like you because you've established your relationship with them as a friend, as a human being, and not as just a robotic person filling a role. And so because they like you, they're a lot more willing to, not even a lot more willing, they want to see what you have to present. They are intrigued to see your craft rather than having it forced upon them.
That's interesting.
And so many magicians have found their own approach to do it. I know Greg Wilson likes to do that, and once he's asked, he says, "Oh, I'm a professional conversationalist, or a professional interrupter."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
But anyway, so what I'm sensing here is that you don't inherently hate strolling magic, do you? Would you hate strolling magicians?
I think I just hate the way I think it's a duality. I hate the way that I've seen it done and the way that I've been told that I should be doing it. I was told that the only I'd say potentially good intention but maybe not great effect advice I've been given is get there early so you can walk around and talk to people before you jump straight into performing. But I even think that at least the way I was enacting it didn't come across right. So my frustration with it definitely comes across most from the way I have presented it and the way that I was told to present it and the way that I saw other people presenting it.
Yeah, I mean, Alex touched on it. I mean, there are really clever ways to present it. I know Paul Green has it where he goes like, "Hey, I was hired here to interrupt you. How am I doing so far?" Right, and already that's a huge icebreaker, but it's funny and gets your attention. And like, he was hired there to interrupt you and do some magic. So
That's exactly true.
It's really funny. So it can be presented right. But I want to go back to what Sanjeev was saying. So please take it that way.
Yeah, one advantage that strolling magic has is that you get a lot of reps. Like if you're necessarily beginning, but if you're trying to get those reps in, it builds your confidence, especially if your social skills need work. Like it builds your confidence because cold approaches are one of the hardest things to do and be pleasant at.
True.
Yeah, cold approaches are tough. And another interesting piece of advice I heard, sort of going off the openers and the advice that Sanjeev heard, is that get the host to let people know that there's a magician there. Like,
advertise it. Yeah,
advertise it. Either say, like, if it's a restaurant, the host is bringing the people to the table, they'll say, "Oh, by the way, we have a magician." And if they say, "Oh, we don't want them," oh, great, I don't have to come and have an awkward moment. Or if it's their event, you just have it like a cardboard cutout of you near the door.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Exactly on what you're saying. I want to touch on a couple things. I've heard for restaurant magic, a tip that I heard, it was make the magician part of the menu. Where if you don't,
it was
that's
Sean
hilarious.
McMaster, I think Sean McMaster, right?
I heard it recently, so I haven't
know.
talked to Sean McMaster in a while. So it was either from Etienne Pradier or Jared Kopf that I got this, because they're the two people I've been studying this past week. So I got it from one of the two. But so making the magician part of the menu, then it eliminates that awkward approach in a restaurant where you're going up to somebody and they're like, no. So if people request you, then they're already expecting you. So that's the way to introduce it. In regards to what you were saying about social skills, I would not advise anyone that considers or that looks in the mirror and say, "Oh, my social skills are not the best." Well, then maybe don't get a strolling gig, because you're not going to be able to present the best you. Work on those social skills first, and
Or
then
do.
I'm sorry?
Or do?
Or do.
but
Restaurants are harder
do-
than corporate.
Do
like,
street magic. Street magic is the same thing, but it just is less formal, and people aren't paying to go there when you're walking down the street.
That's
They say,
when you
"Hey,
get
show you magic
those
trick."
reps.
Boom. Yeah.
No,
get
exactly.
those reps.
I
just
don't think
disagree.
it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to advertise yourself, put your name on something, brand your product on something that you're not confident with. Like, I'm not confident in dancing ballet, so I'm not going to sell my services as a ballet dancer. So if I'm not confident in approaching people, I'm not going to be a strolling magician. I don't think you should. Then we're advising magicians, like people that are not confident in their art or their craft, to just do it. and I don't think that's a good
It's a
good
new
idea.
piece, though.
See, couple things. I don't think
Yeah.
that example compares, first of all, because I think the issue here is magicians themselves, who don't realize maybe that strolling magic is a little different from what they're used to doing, and so they need to curate themselves to the skill set required for strolling magic. So the dancing ballet, I think, would be a little extreme comparison, because that, I think we understand that we're very far from the skill set. I think the central issue is when magicians themselves, who are so used to performing maybe in a formal context, maybe in a casual to mom and dad context, think that, oh, because I can do magic in these contexts, I can do magic in strolling. And so that point I would agree with. Real quick, Gonzalo. Real quick. Okay, if you're going to respond to that,
No,
go
I
for it,
am, because
then have a
I
different point.
agree. There has to be a point where everything is an off or an
Yes.
on. So there
Yes.
has to be a point where you don't do strolling magic, and one day you will do strolling magic. So there has to be a point that you have to make that jump and do it.
I think it's as simple as thinking about it, right?
True.
You have to think, I'm gonna do strolling
what I
magic.
want to make clear was in regards to what Matthew was saying. He was saying that it might be it's a good way to improve your social skills.
Oh,
I flip it.
yes.
Improve your social skills, then get hired to be a magician.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be
okay.
practicing your social skills while you're being paid for a service. That's
I do
what
my
I wanted
restaurant
to say.
gig in my mind.
okay. So I was gonna respond to both of those. Like weirdly, not disagree with both of you, but I think Gonzalo, I think you're on the right approach. But I would say for a different intention. I think that you don't practice social skills at strolling gigs because that's another thing I brought up in our call. To me, the reason so many magicians think that they're good at being social, but they really suck, is because we're using magic as a crutch. The moment you bring magic into the picture, the moment you use magic as your segue into being a charismatic and personable person, I think you're missing the point already. I think the point of social skills is to be able to communicate your personality honestly, and magic is a part of your personality. Personality is not a part of your magic. And I think that needs to be very clear. So strolling gigs should be completely different from any social gym intentions whatsoever, because the moment you start using your magic as a crutch, I don't think you're becoming better at your social skills at all.
Social skills then in the approach, because you can't then if you're going up to someone with, has anybody lost a red knife? What about a green knife? Like,
That's so actually pathetic. Wow, that's funny.
come on, come on.
But hey, seriously, I think maybe what Matthew was touching is maybe accept the fact that you're gonna suck balls on the first event you get
Yeah.
booked at. And I think that's more of what I'm getting is that know that you're gonna blow and arrive with that mentality, and just to make
I
sure
like
you're
that.
very aware of how you're blowing to make sure you blow less and less over the night and over the event.
Of course, correct.
Learn
In
from
which
your
case,
mistakes.
Yeah.
yes, when you take the jump, know that you're not gonna be good at it.
Of course.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. I mean, there has to be a point where you take the leap. You can't just never take that leap because you don't have the social cues. Like, you eventually have to try, and then you're going to be bad, but you're going to get better. And I think Gonzalo said it. It's a place to improve the social skills.
Nice. One other thing that I think all of you mentioned that I want to touch on in this first half is I believe this is something I've heard from Jared Koff, but also a lot of other performers, that one way to kind of avoid that interrupting mindset of strolling magic is the moment you're getting hired, offer this to the person hiring you. Tell them, I'll set up a table in one corner of the event, and you advertise as, actually not even in one corner of the event, let's do one better. I'll set up a table in a separate room. And then you advertise as broadly as you can, make it very clear that there is a magician at this event. And you say the magician is in this room. And at a time, we'll let 15 people in that room. And those 15 people can go in, watch it, and the only rule is that after you watch the show, you're not allowed to spoil anything about it to other people. Therefore, everyone's going to kind of spoil it. They're going to walk in, they're going to see the magic show. As they leave, you're going to see it in their reactions. And now, rather than explicitly, you're implicitly creating buzz. You're implicitly creating word of mouth and excitement about this thing. And now you've also flipped the power dynamic, where now instead of you trying to interrupt people and force the magic upon them, they are taking agency and they're actively making the choice out of their own interest to come watch you. And that instantly colors their preconceptions going into the performance, and I would argue really makes them enjoy it way more than if you were forcing it upon them instead.
That's a wonderful approach, and I think we're really touching the bottom of everything we're saying is just to make sure that people are asking for magic or are very open to the idea of having magic
Yes.
be done to them. And another wonderful way, and now this is strange, it's a Javi Benitez idea, and it's
Oh,
the
okay.
best. It is the
Interesting.
best. And I think I've told you guys already. And the idea is, if you're in a restaurant specifically where people are seated or where there is assigned seating, you have a little like envelope, little postcard, little business card saying, and that's laying against the candle that says, if you want a piece of mystery during your dinner, light the candle. Or something of that sort.
That is awesome.
So when you arrive in the room, you just look for the lit candles and you go up to those tables. And they're ready to experience something. So this is just an approach. And it can be so many, but inherently, if you're doing a strolling gig, make sure you have a way for people to ask for magic. Because I have seen so many people give tips about how approaching that are, I could not believe what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I've heard people literally here going up to people and handing them a coupon and saying, hey, this is a coupon for a magic trick. And they go, what the f-? And I'm the magician. When like,
What?
so many people have terrible ideas on how to approach. So just at some point before you go, sit and just put yourself in the eyes of your audience. Go, if this happens to me, is it okay? And so many times you're realizing it's not. So just choose your approach to have people ask, would you mind me would you mind showing me something?
I want to just underline what Alex said. Think of how you would feel if you were in their place. I think so many of these horrendous approach strategies that we market are simply because we don't get a no from the spectator because they're too polite to outright reject us. And so we're like, oh, that must have succeeded. Wow, they must have thought that that was really clever. But don't try to go based on how your spectators react. Instead, go based on putting yourself in their own shoes and treating them as you would like yourself to be treated.
Empathy is so important with that. I just want to say those two pieces of advice were great. I haven't heard of those before. I love that. I think that's excellent. And also, just touching back on the thing Alex said earlier, sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of good at something. So don't be afraid to suck. If you could comment below where that quote is from, if you can say that, that's 50 points.
Don't be afraid to suck, but don't look to suck. I keep.
Totally.
Obviously, just don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Because it's
Just
the
don't be
same
afraid.
thing. Like Alex was touching on all the bad ways to approach people. I think my argument then still stands. Just take a step back. First, work on those skills on how to approach people, and then get the gigs.
I think it's to be okay with sucking, but don't be content with sucking. Where you're willing to just stay at that level.
Very well said.
And
Thank you.
also,
don't give up.
most importantly, be very realistic. Like, understand, like, is my magic good enough that I have sets that are interesting to random people? Okay, do I know how to do this? And it's just being honest with yourself. If you think your magic, like, if you're not even thinking about, is my magic good enough to be shown at professional events in, like, small groups in very dynamic ways? And if that is not a clear yes, it's a no.
Wow. This is just a total personal opinion. You guys hopefully will agree with me. Might disagree. I don't know. Personally, this also just don't ask for tips. I'm sorry. I'm really against asking for tips.
You mean
because
tips
you're
on
already
how to be better?
Nice.
No tips on like actual
like
money
Money
tips.
tips.
Oh.
Like money.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
ask
Don't
for
ask.
tips. Let
Don't
people
ask for
tip
tips.
you. Like you're already there. You're already being paid to be there.
Or even
Right?
if you're
And
not.
if it's out of-
Even if you're not.
I just personally think it's just too much of like a hey, look at me and look at me doing my service. I don't know. I'm just not into
Don't
it.
ask for tips.
I would say equally bad, even though it's for some reason suddenly lauded in the magician community, is this really clever mindset that, oh, let's end with a trick where their piece of money is in my hand so that they can be the magnanimous person and say, oh, you can just keep that. I think that that's really both manipulative and like so insecure and just... Sure, the outcome might seem really clever and great for the magician, but I think the intention is pathetic and should be avoided.
I think
at
people
all
see right
costs.
through that. People go, well, now it's very awkward for me to ask back and want to avoid the situation. Yeah, for sure. And I would even say that if you're working at an event and you get tipped, because magicians don't understand how events work. If you get tipped, well, slide in the tip jar with all the waiters and all the other personnel, for the love of God. I've seen
Ooh,
people
that's
walk
a
away
good
with,
idea. Put it in there, dude.
I've seen people like walk away with huge tips and like the waiters that are working significantly harder than you're like,
Yes.
what the f-? So just to make sure you're very clear with the wait staff. By the way, you should be working with the wait staff just to make sure you're never interrupting and you're covering the big periods of dead time that might be a little something late with a plate or serving. You're there to cover. You are part of the service. You're not just wandering around doing a magic to every table however you want. It's a very precise thing organizationally. And to be honest, if you're already getting well paid, I would even encourage people when they're being presented a tip, saying, "That's very nice. I'm getting taken care of very well of." I would strongly encourage you to give that bill to the waiter directly.
Ooh, that's so good. That's awesome.
Be the better person. If you consider like you might not be getting paid,
Love
you're
it.
taking a little extra, still slip that in the tip jar and split like everybody else. And even I would
Yeah,
suggest, if you're splitting with everyone else, make clear that you're the magician. So don't take the same share as a waiter. Come on, don't
Yeah.
be a dick.
Yeah, Sean McMaster has some really good work on like restaurant stuff, and not that he doesn't have I'm not talking about tips, but he does present himself as part of the staff. Like when he walks up to the group, he'll be like, "Hey, how is your evening going? Can I get you anything? Is anyone like, do you want a glass of water?" So he
I
presents
love that,
himself
yeah.
as some sort of busboy, or since he's wearing the suit, maybe a little bit higher management. He's working there for the restaurant, and then he asks about magic and if you're interested in seeing it. So that's a really good tip. Coordinate with the waiters and waitresses.
Yeah, you are the piece that's extra in that restaurant or that event. You are the odd one out. So work with the people that are actually doing the job to make that event work. As we round and as we close the first half of our discussion, my job is to direct you to our social media. That could be facebook.com/ungimmicked or Instagram @ungimmicked. If you love our work and want to support us more closely, you know that you can head over to patreon.com/ungimmicked and become a closer part of the family. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and on youtube.com/ungimmicked. I'm trying to make sure that I hit all the points that I have to and plug all the things that I have to. And I think I have, so we can move on to our recommendation. And I might be wrong, but I believe this is a historic moment at Ungimmicked, because this is episode, in our case, 17, 18? 17,
I think. Yeah.
And it is, I believe, and I might be wrong, but I believe the first time that I will be recommending something.
Oh my god! I did not know that.
It took a while, but
Nobody ever said you didn't have to. You just sort of didn't do it.
Just never did. He was just always the host. Yeah.
I just never did it. But I get to today, and I have already dropped his name in the first half of the podcast. But my recommendation is going to be a specific book, just because I am reading it now, by Etienne Pradier, and it's called La Magie des Cartes, Magic with Cards. It's a very fun book. It's a thin book. Very easy read. A couple of cool effects, and the magic aside, it has a lot of his stories as a performer and as one of the great workers out there. So he focuses on strolling magic, and for weddings, whether that would be for weddings, for private parties, for restaurants. So his comments are great on how to approach, how to set up your gigs, how to be a successful businessman alongside as a magician. And then he also tells a bunch of very interesting stories when shit goes down and the tricks don't work, or everything breaks, or there's one. I'm just going to tell one story, doing a card on ceiling, where the deck catches fire on a lamp.
Wow.
So that's the only story that I will tell,
Okay.
which is so
That
the deck
escalated.
goes up, the deck doesn't come down, and a couple minutes later a fire breaks in the ceiling.
Nice.
So, yes, once again, the recommendation is Etienne Pradier's La Magie des Cartes. And
Pick
all
up
the
all
work
of his
that-
stuff.
Yeah, all the work. I'm recommending that one specific because I have it right there in the bookshelf, and it's the one that I'm reading. But he has other books, he has DVDs, he has a lot of good stuff. And if we're talking about strolling magic, he is one of the great workers out there.
Now I have a question. Is it printed in English? Or because you keep
It
calling
is.
it by
Oh
the
yes.
name. Okay.
So he's the French magician in England. I forget his branding. Alex, if you can help me.
He's the Frenchest magician in English and the most English French magician simultaneously.
So he
you
lives
go.
in England, and he does all of his, or 90% of his magic geared towards an English-speaking audience anyway. So his book is in English, although it has the French in French fashion. The title remains in
double
French.
Yeah, it's very French. Yeah.
We can move on to the second half of this discussion. I think now we'll be touching a little bit more on the artistic, or the possible artistic side of strolling magic. But Matthew O'Neill has a comment to get us started, so I'm handing it over to him.
Not to get it started, sort of just to finally close the previous section of it, which is that when you were talking about helping the waitstaff and asking, was it Connor who said, "Can I get you anything?" Who said that?
Yeah,
It
Connor.
was
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Also, if the waiters need help, don't be like, "Oh, I'm the magician. I don't have to help you guys." No, help serve stuff. Like, be a decent person and like help out. Like if you're not doing that, you're in the way.
Yes. It's not above your pay grade to
No, it is not.
to help someone.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they think it's below.
Oh, exactly. But and
Yeah.
it isn't. You are there as
not.
part of the establishment, as
You're the
part of
service.
the event. You are the service.
Yeah.
Nice.
And managers will really appreciate you
Yes.
and
Yeah.
will probably rebook you more often because you're
Definitely.
just like a better human being. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I usually try to not express judgment on people, but more like on concepts and ideas. But you are just objectively a better person if you do that. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't hold back from expressing judgments on people. So, yeah, don't suck. You know, be a decent. Yeah, learn how to be a decent human, and then learn social skills, and then learn approaches, and then you're ready for strolling magic. Yes. So up next, that first half was honestly amazing to me because I think we got little things clued in from all of you guys that really brought a lot more value to me on how to make that approach in a manner that's at least a little more aligned with our integrity, both as people and as magicians. And to me, the second half is argument time.
Woohoo.
The art side of strolling magic. And to begin with an opinion, this is something we've debated a little before, but I will stand by my art to entertainment spectrum, where your art's on one side and entertainment's on the other side. And again, it's not a matter of how it comes across. Your art can be entertaining and your entertainment can be artistic. It's a matter of what you prioritize. And to me, inherently, art prioritizes what you're saying, and entertainment inherently prioritizes what your audience wants to hear. And because in a hierarchy, you can't have ties. So there's one that you rank over the other, and that's how I define that spectrum. And from me, as an extension of that, I would say that strolling magic is inherently geared toward the gig. It's geared towards the customers, the clients, their experience, and this isn't inherently a good or a bad thing. It's just a different context. But I think that there is not a significant possibility for being artistic in strolling magic while maintaining its success as strolling magic. So that's an opinion to get you guys started.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I mean, personally, my first reaction is that if you say that, and no, although no one is saying this, but if you say that strolling magic can't be art, I think you're dead wrong. Because, like, say you only have like 10 minutes to do a small little thing, like, that's enough time to do something. Like, by saying that it can't be art, that's just an excuse not to make it art.
Mm-hmm.
Like, an excuse to not putting in that work and making it a meaningful trick, because you totally can make it a meaningful trick. And even in the fact that you are just a random person and you don't know each other, and then you leave and you don't know each other, I feel like you could do so much with even that. The fact that it's just a totally random situation. So I don't know, but the question should it be art? Like, should strolling magic be
So I
art?
guess
Is that a better way to maybe put it?
The extent of that potential, I think, is the real question. I highly doubt any of us would argue it cannot be, or definitely always is. Yeah.
I'm also curious to hear your opinions on it, on how you categorize it, and how you yourself would like to present it if you were to do it.
Yeah, Sanjeev, I think you really hit it dead. Like, it's about the gig. You're here at the service of an establishment, a company, a person, and so you are there to please customers, to make them have a more enjoyable time. So if your focus is anything else than that, well, you're not just doing your job properly. Mm-hmm. That said, I have to say I am in beefs with the worker community, because I think they are people of excuses. And I have never the number one excuse I've ever heard in magic is, "Oh no, this is for real people." You.
What?
What does that mean?
Oh,
what
Yeah,
does
what's
that
that even
actually
mean?
mean?
I have no
Exactly.
idea what that means.
Like, people are always like, "No, but when you're out in the real world, this is what works." And what they're usually referring to is very, very poor magic. And I hate it. Like, this is such an excuse. Like, you can do strolling good magic.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it seems to me that people, like, have this sort of deus ex machina of every time they don't feel like arguing or they feel like they might be wrong, just, "Oh yeah, but I'm working for real people." Well, yeah, no fucking shit. Don't do real magic. Like, I'm sorry, this is something I'm very passionate about, because I don't like excuses. I
Oh,
don't,
really?
and I try every time I say something and I go, oh, wait a second, is that completely true? No, I think I'm sort of, this is a way for me to get out of this. And I've never seen that much behavior in other people than strolling magicians. And don't put the words I'm not saying in my mouth. There's so many really, really, really amazing strolling magicians. We've mentioned one. It's a one-on-one for now. We're dead on. Etienne Pradier is a fucking beast. That said, a lot of working magicians use the fact that they're working magicians as excuses to work not so much on their magic, and I do not encourage that. Needless to say.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Rance. But
No. I just wanted to quickly say that I'm just really grateful that we have someone like Alex in this group who just never passes judgment on people and only on concepts. And
yeah, the concept of putting your magic behind what you're doing. I haven't said, oh, Mr. John Doe sucks as a strolling magician because he's an idiot. I just said if you're putting your putting this sort of wall behind you of going, I work for real people, so essentially I do what I want. You can't really pass judgment onto me. Well, you just suck as a human being. I said it. I said it.
it's laziness for sure. It is.
Absolutely. No, once again, I'm harsh and doesn't make you a poor human being, but it's a very lazy behavior, and I think as this very profession, I think the laziness is probably one of the professions where one of the least of laziness, because in art, that is all you have is what you put into it. So if you're using excuses to put less into it, you're just sort of like shutting it down for yourself and people that look up to you and everyone else.
I'm going to agree with what you're saying. So with whatever you said, I agree with, and I want to take it somewhere else because I have nothing else to add to that.
Nice.
But I want to comment on more what Sanjeev was saying on the. I think this was the time that I've heard you say it the best. Your relationship between art and entertainment. We've been talking. You've made that point a lot of times. I think it was very concise here. It's about what you prioritize, but one can exist alongside the other. I believe that very firmly. I believe that you can do artistic strolling magic, and the same way that we're saying that the event is is your primary focus. Whatever the event needs, you prioritize the event and whatever your host needs you to do. But you have to do that in the way that you think it's best. That's why they're hiring you and not Magician XYZ, is because they believe that your approach is the best one. No, I think that you can include some artistic elements into it. And it's not to create art. You're not trying to leave everybody with deep philosophical questions. But it doesn't mean that you have to go to everybody and just poof, magic. I think you should try to leave people with something more than just magic happened here. And Magic Boy came for 5 minutes and interrupted my conversation. Especially
definitely.
when we're talking about restaurant magic, I think there's a lot of potential, because then if you get a residency at a restaurant, you get regulars, and regulars keep coming back. You get to build relationships with people, and there's your best opportunity, I think, in strolling magic to do something really, really cool, because now you're not just a magician. You can become a friend. You can become someone that those people trust when they have an important dinner, that they bring people there to see you because they trust you to bring that extra value. And then it's not just magic. It's not just poof, Magic Boy came. There's something else, and that's where I see the possibility for art.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. There's a thing we haven't touched on yet, which is sort of an implicit purpose of strolling gigs, which is also a little bit to market yourself, to brand yourself. Gonzalo touched on that a little bit, but you are exposing yourself, you're building relationships, you're meeting potential clients, and for you to sort of give them a taste of what you're about allows them to sort of maybe want to book you for something where, hypothetically, it's a dinner party at their house. Then you can do something really meaningful, specifically tailored for that group of people. But when you're going around, I don't know, like sort of Gonzalo mentioned, if you want to try to make it deep, really depends on your gig, because sometimes it just needs to be keep the mood light, keep everyone laughing, keep everyone having fun. And if you're doing what the client wants, then you're doing your job.
I'm sure we don't mean it that way, but I just want to once again make it very clear for people that are listening. If you're at a gig, the only person you're marketing yourself to is the person that hired you. everything else is secondary. And I've seen magicians distribute their own business cards when they were at restaurants, which I've seen a bunch of times where it was clearly not okay. Remember, you're here to promote the event and the people that organize the event.
That's true.
So if you're not sure if it's okay, it's probably not. So don't just be very cautious with the way you
Good
do
point.
it. And this is very important because, or else you will be looked down upon, probably not rehired, and probably will get a bad rep for something you didn't know was not okay. Something else I would like to address is the entertainment. Sanjeev, you said it beautifully. Like, what are you putting the focus on? Entertainment. You should put the focus on entertainment, but you can be more than entertaining. So many gig magicians just try to be entertaining to a group, and they forget they can still be, funny, interesting, puzzling, mysterious, whatever. And because there is such the word entertainment carries like such importance in this industry, we forget that as long as there is entertainment can be a byproduct of something else. And people, once you leave, don't just look and say, oh, that was fun. They can also say, huh, that was interesting, or oh, what a puzzling person, that's a good question. We should talk about it at some point. But all I mean is, as long as you're entertaining, you don't need to be only entertaining.
I would extend that because I like that, and I would say, to repeat your point, just so I can twist it a little. You said that yes, your main goal is to be entertaining, but don't try to just don't use that as an excuse to only be entertaining and not anything else. And I love that.
That
I think that's very
entertainment
accurate.
can come as a consequence of something else.
Yeah, I would extend that and say, yes, you're a magician, but too often we think that it's good enough to just be magical. And I think that's even a precursor to being entertaining. I think it's not enough to just be magical. You need to also be entertaining in this context or other things in other contexts. So yeah, don't stop both trying and thinking and improving too soon. And kind of as a final bow on this before we move to the last topic of the discussion, one thing that I value personally in material I make for formal shows, for example, is polarization. Something we've talked about on this podcast before, where to me personally, it's way better for me to have a show where this one piece you might be indifferent or neutral or not like even, but the next piece you'd love, rather than having a show which every piece, every single person in the audience is like, okay, this is fine about. I would much rather have each section be a completely authentic expression of myself, and if they like that segment, perfect. If they don't like it, there'll be something else in the show that they would love. But I would say that level of polarization is not possible in a strolling magic situation, because again, your priority is not saying what you want to say, and then whether people like it or not, that's their problem. That's such a restrictive mindset in that context. It just doesn't work. Your priority is their experience, and so that polarization level would have to be way less. I see nods, so I'm going to move on. And the last thing I want to discuss with you all is, where is strolling magic going? Where's it going to be in the future? And you guys can even touch on the situation that we're in right now with COVID and how that's going to both affect or change the space for strolling magic moving forward.
Well, I think the answer to that question is up to strolling magicians. A lot of them have already put forward their solutions to it. A lot of them are offering COVID-free shows. That's how they've been marketing it. Shows that are 6 feet, shows that happen, across like a window, or like drive-throughs. I've seen like kids do birthday parties when there's a magician that's like with the kid and like guests are just driving through. So it can go wherever it can go, first of all, and wherever people want to take it. So unfortunately the market is restricted now, but we see some events starting to light up. And just know that first of all, magicians might not be a priority for lots of places that might be a little low on budget, but you can probably find a place around you that is still looking for that unique thing, and I think there's still chances to be hired. But yeah, it is up to the magicians to make sure they come up with a formula to businesses or to individuals and saying, hey, this is how I'm going to make this safe. Don't get hired and expect people to tell you how it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. No, I think every single magician has an opportunity now to innovate and create a completely new thing in magic. Because we always talk about, strolling is close-up magic. So in close-up magic, the name is it's close up. It's the fact that people get to see. They're close to you. The magic happens in their face, in their hands sometimes. As we love to market stuff, saying it happens in their hands. We have an opportunity now to create a new path on how to present close-up magic. It's counterintuitive. You have to present distant close-up magic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't that?
the person or the
Oxymoron,
first
yeah.
person that is able to make that jump, I think, could be immortalized in our magic books and our magic history, because this is a world-changing event. And if you figure out a good formula on how to do this, I your innovation could actually change magic.
Interesting. Strolling magic on Zoom? Like an event that's split into a bunch of breakout rooms, and then you hop from breakout room to breakout room.
Breakout room to breakout room. Hey, honestly, it does work. I mean,
That's
Maybe.
very specific.
It would be groups of like 4 or 5. So it's a very parallel situation.
That is
Interesting.
very interesting.
Yeah, Matt, what did you have to add?
Yeah, I actually, the venue where I had my strolling residency has been opening up again and has outdoor seating, a lot of airflow, which is nice. And they invited me back to eventually, in a couple weeks, begin doing strolling magic again. And so right now I'm actually putting together a repertoire that is no contact close-up magic. So they don't have to touch me, I don't have to touch them, but they can see something very beautiful happen. I have definitely, I mean, you guys seen me do coins across. That obviously doesn't involve with them touching it and various other things. But you can make it work. You can make it work.
yeah. I
And
mean,
you can also
definitely
use this
make it work.
opportunity where everything goes down to make sure you have something ready for when it opens up. Don't use
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Work on your repertoire. Work on your
Work on
repertoire.
it. I was gonna say now is also a very important time to make sure that you are a good person. Businesses. I mean, hey. I mean, and let me clarify. Businesses are struggling. They are most definitely struggling. And if they hire you to do a strolling gig, it's your job to help out. Like,
Yeah,
the fact that they're even
definitely.
hiring you is probably a luxury right now, because who knows what the standard or like how small mom and pop restaurants are doing. So, I mean, don't be afraid to be a waiter. Don't be afraid to get water. Help them out. Actually make yourself don't make yourself useful. Not like you're not useful, but like really be like the best utility that the restaurant has to get more business, to come back to get them, and to also help out the business.
Exactly. It shows your appreciation for the business, and everyone's a winner in that situation.
Yes.
It's seeing yourself not as an entertainment asset to the restaurant, just as an asset to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. I think especially in like this context of strolling magic in general, you're not really selling the magic, you're selling the entire experience. And I think that experience definitely includes them interacting with you as a person, because when when whoever's hiring you remembers their memory of the entire thing, your humanity is a part of that memory. And so you want to be sure to definitely not suppress that with little things like, oh, this is beneath me, or oh, this isn't enough pay, I deserve so much more than this for this stuff that I'm going through. No, just be a good person. Understand, like Gonzalo said, we are the odd ones out when we perform in places like restaurants. Even in parties when we're unexpected, we are the odd ones out. There's no way really for me to summarize, I think, the wealth of advice that we've given over the course of this episode. This is going to be one that I'm going to be re-listening to numerous times. Just whenever gigs like this come around again, I will be coming back to this episode, and I'm sure that all of our viewers will be too. Great episode, guys. It's always so fulfilling to research something. It's so fulfilling. G, take it away.
No, thank you for those comments, Sanjeev. And if I may say so myself, this has become one of my favorites, and I think one of the best in terms of argumentation and discussion that we've had. Great points. And I'll stop patting ourselves on the back, and I'll move on to our last segment, to our assembly. Today presented by Connor McDonald.
With the current topic that we are talking about, I think a great little recommendation or assembly piece could be to go for a stroll, right? Go out and actually just take a walk. I wish that was my joke, but it's not. It's Alex.
It's funny because it's a pun.
I totally would love to just be like, oh yes, take that.
I did not live
thank
up
you,
to that
Alex.
joke. I didn't dare say it, so I just put it into Connor's hands.
Alex
Okay.
Alex was just like, please don't credit me on that.
Yeah, unfortunately. I'm not a big
No.
pun guy.
No, take a stroll, clear your head. Maybe think about
Think
where
about
your
becoming a better
priorities
person.
are. Yeah, hey, make yourself a better person. Think about actions that you do that affect other people, how you can maybe make someone's day by keeping a door open, or maybe, hey, if you're our age, do the dishes for whoever, for the house, for the family, take out the trash, or take a walk, take a stroll, and just set your goals for the future. What are your goals in the next couple months? Because things will be opening up eventually. And what are you going to do when that happens?
And it's a great way to not only do that, but completely, like, secondarily, and you don't even need to think about it. You're getting exercise in, you're getting sunlight in. Only
Vitamin
benefits.
D.
Everybody wins.
And
Everybody
if
wins.
somebody lost their penknife, make sure to return it to them.
Oh,
my
yeah,
gosh.
that wins the day. Yes, boys, thank you so much. No, not boys. We're not boys. We're gentlemen here at this podcast.
Gentlemen.
I have to remember our branding. We are gentlemen here. Thank you all for your points and for this discussion. It was great. We were joined today by Alex Moreau, Connor McDonald, Matthew O'Neill, Sanjeev Vinod. My name is Gonçalo Souza. Thank you for listening to Ungimmicked.